Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So we've been talking a lot about the primary elections that have been taking place throughout the entire country, probably for the past couple months at length, which it's important that we touch on them, and we're going to continue to touch on them because they are really going to shape who are going to be the Republicans that are going to be on the ballot in November. Are they going to be the right kind of Republican, the America First Republican, as much as possible, or are they going to be the weak old guard establishment Republicans that have been stabbing us in the back for decades now? We have won more elections in this country on the right than we have lost since 1960, but as a result, the left controls every single institution, and we keep losing our country. This means we have weak leadership, so it's important we're focusing on that. But beyond that point, I kind of wanted to pivot today. There's not a whole lot of primary news that's going to really be taking place within the next couple of weeks or so, besides some primaries that we will cover. But today's video, I'm going to take a little bit of a break from that. We're going to look at the Senate elections. There was one poll that came out of Pennsylvania that was awful. We're going to look into that, but I wanted to analyze the Big Five, and we know the nominees for 3 of these 5 Senate races. So we're going to be diving into these states and looking at them and basically seeing what are the chances that Republicans are going to be able to sweep all 5 of them. I think the chances are still very high, especially with this economic downturn that we are seeing right now in our country. Biden's approval rating, it keeps dipping. It's falling significantly, falling below 38%, dipping into the mid-30s. And Trump, in the exit polls in 2018, he was at 45, and Republicans got crushed. Just imagine how bad it's going to be for the Democrats come November. But first, I have to tell you guys about my very good friends over at My Patriot Supply. Temperatures are not the only thing on the rise. Gas prices, food prices, tension throughout society, global conflict, supply chain breakdowns, you name it. Experts say the looming global food crisis will be worse than any year since World War II, so what should you do? Go to preparewithredeagle.com and get your long-term emergency food storage from My Patriot Supply while you still can. It's America's largest preparedness company with millions of satisfied customers, and their food lasts for up to 25 years in storage. When you need it, it will be there. Act quickly and save $150 on a 3-month emergency food kit full of breakfasts, lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks totaling over 2,000 calories a day. You won't go hungry if you save your $150 right now on your 3-month kit at preparewithredeagle.com. Once again, preparewithredeagle.com. So beyond that point, we're going to start off here with the state of Pennsylvania because there was a poll that came out that was awful, and they say that John Fetterman, who on the issues is not very different than Bernie Sanders, and he is leading Dr. Oz in this poll by 9 points in the Senate race, 46 to 37. But for some reason, he's actually trailing Doug Mastriano. Doug Mastriano is within the poll's margin of error. It's funny, these electabros have been saying that Mastriano can't win. He's unelectable, but in this first poll that comes out, he's actually doing better than Dr. Oz. Now, at the end of the day, I don't believe that's going to happen. I think Mastriano and Oz are both going to win. I think Oz is actually going to likely win by more, mainly because of the fact that Fetterman is such an awful candidate, especially when he is getting attacked, because there is so much subject matter to attack him on, and Fetterman hasn't been attacked really a whole lot just yet, and he has the Democrat base behind him. Dr. Oz does not have the Republican base entirely behind him yet. He just got out of a primary. So it would actually make sense if he was actually in a poll down significantly, but there's a problem with this poll. This poll oversampled Biden voters in the state by 8%, and that assumes that the electorate that turns out is going to be the same electorate as 2020. So when you adjust for that fact alone, this race becomes a dead toss-up. And when you adjust for the fact that the electorate this time might actually be like a Trump plus 4, Trump plus 5 in terms of the 2020 vote choice electorate, because in Virginia, it was tied. Virginia was a state that went for Biden by like 10. So let's even say if it's like Trump plus 3, Oz would easily already have a lead over John Fetterman. And Fetterman hasn't really been attacked a whole lot yet. There's a lot of skeletons in his closet. And there's a lot of statements that he's made in the past surrounding policy that would make him dead on arrival in the suburbs, and a lot of things that he said about Trump and his base that would make him dead on arrival in a lot of the rural areas and the blue-collar white parts of the state, like the Northeast and the areas surrounding Pittsburgh and the counties besides Allegheny. So already you can tell that this poll is nonsense, and I believe Mastriano is probably going to beat Josh Shapiro at the end of the day, especially because of the national environment and because of Wolf's approval rating being significantly lower than it was a couple of years ago, and Shapiro's basically running as being Wolf's third term. So beyond that point, we look at Pennsylvania. We haven't seen much polling from Pennsylvania yet, but it's very clear that even in some of these Dem-leaning polls, Fetterman right now, he's only at 45. He's not an electoral juggernaut. He would be at 50. I think at the end of the day, Oz is going to end up winning this race by a likely margin. I think he very well could end up winning it by more than 5 points. I think he could win it by 7, especially as a lot of Republicans come home just against Fetterman. And Mastriano energizing the base is going to help out Oz too. They're going to help out each other regardless of who ends up overperforming the other. I think Republicans are going to win this race at the end of the day by a decent amount. So we understand that. So Pennsylvania, that's it for Pennsylvania. This is not a prediction video, so we could put these in the lean column, but I expect Republicans to possibly win some of these races by a likely margin. So beyond that point, I want to move on to a lesser talked about race, like New Hampshire. New Hampshire has not been talked about very much, yet it is actually a high-profile race. The senators all have the same voting power. They have the same voting power in the state of California as they do in the state of Vermont. We understand this. Big state, small state, it doesn't exactly matter. So beyond that point, we understand the Democrats are running Maggie Hassan. She's going to be running for yet another term. Shaheen Shaheen won big in 2020. However, Shaheen is very popular. Hassan is not really. Hassan barely got by in 2016 against Kelly Ayotte, and that was a D+2 national environment. We could be looking at like R+10 right now. So if you actually go down here and you look at the Republican primary and see who the Republicans are putting up, though, they don't exactly have a field that has a clear frontrunner. There is one poll we've seen that has Don Bolduc ahead, but so many undecideds are in that poll, and Chuck Morse is a fairly high-profile Republican that has announced. Bolduc may be similar to Tom Cotton. Is he the best fit for New Hampshire? I don't necessarily think he may be. I think he can maybe win if he gets the nomination. Chuck Morse is probably more likely to win the general election, in my opinion. Either way, I'm glad that Chris Sununu, who has gone severely hard to the left in recent months, has decided not to run for this Senate race. I think that is a very positive development, and Chuck Morse is somebody that very well could end up winning, and I think he would be somewhat of a decent senator for a state that voted for Biden by 7 percentage points in 2020. And you look at the head-to-head polls, there really are not that many head-to-head polls, but we do understand that Chuck Morse actually led the recent poll, which means he might actually stand a chance to win. The only problem that I could see is if there is a very brutal primary battle between Morse and Bolduc, and one of them ends up winning and fails to really get the other side's base to really come home for them by Election Day because it's a very late primary. That could pose a problem, but either way, Hassan tends to be polling in the mid-40s. Chuck Morse tends to be polling fairly well on average. A lot of undecided voters, many of whom disapprove of Joe Biden. Morse has a lot of time to make that support up, so do keep that in mind. I personally think New Hampshire is going to flip red as well, which would be crucial on the path to 54 and on the path to 60 Senate seats by the end of 2024's election. So Georgia is another state that has a contested Senate election. Now, Georgia is a state that has moved drastically to the left. However, in a national environment like this, and you have maybe just 1% of a suburban shift to the right in the state of Georgia, which I think we'll see more than that given turnout due to the midterm environment. But either way, if you look at the population of these counties, the Atlanta metro has like 60% of Georgia's population. If it moves just right by 1% from 2020 and you hold the margins in the rural areas, you are likely going to see Georgia's Senate race flip, and I believe you will. You have Herschel Walker as the Republican. That primary is already over. He won it big, going up against Raphael Warnock. Now, Herschel Walker's got a lot of name recognition in this state. He is a folk hero. Are there some scandals that are coming out about him? Yeah, but a lot of them were out before the primary, and they really did not hurt him. I mean, Walker could do nothing. He could sit there. He could not even debate. He could just be on the ballot come November, and I believe that he would defeat Raphael Warnock, because Raphael Warnock is somebody that, to begin with, had skeletons in his closet. People say Walker had domestic abuse issues. Okay, well, look at Raphael Warnock. So did he, but it wasn't really properly exploited by the Loeffler campaign. And Loeffler was just so corrupt. She was so unlikable. The circumstances surrounding the $2,000 checks hurt Republicans in the Georgia runoff significantly, as well as the fact that a lot of the Trump base just did not decide to show up because they didn't really trust a lot of these establishment characters. And as a result, Warnock is a senator, which honestly, one could say would be a blessing in disguise if we could get rid of him this time. David Perdue losing to Jon Ossoff was awful, mainly because of the fact that Perdue was not nearly as bad as Loeffler, and he was in really the wrong place at the wrong time, and also because Jon Ossoff is somebody that's going to be there for 6 years instead of 2, and Democrats are literally in the process of propping him up to be their 2028 nominee, like he's like the second coming of JFK or something. But beyond that point, Herschel Walker is leading the polls, the early polls, against an incumbent, which really says something, and they really haven't shown signs of slowing down. It's probably, in my opinion, going to be within a few points because, like I said, Walker does have some skeletons in his closet, but at the end of the day, I believe Walker is a solid candidate because of his past history. He will be a party line vote for Donald Trump, and he is going to end up winning the Senate race in the state of Georgia at the end of the day. Yes, all of this is subject to change, but Georgia is likely going to end up falling in the Republican column. I mean, it's going to be an R+10 national environment. And even though Georgia's moving to the left, in 2020 it voted to the right of the country by over 4 points. It's not entirely gone this cycle. We could talk about 2024, 2026, yes, but given the midterm trends and the unpopularity of Joe Biden, you're going to be hard-pressed to convince me that Herschel Walker is not going to be favored by several points. So beyond that point, we have Arizona and Nevada. We're going to start off with Nevada because we just had a primary that took place in Nevada last night. And in the 2020 election, you saw Clark County zoom to the right, and you saw this in primary turnout as well. And even in 2020, where Trump fell short in the state, he still did better in Clark County, and that was with election law changes, etc. So it's important to understand that Clark County, you have a coalition where you can expand there. You have a lot of, blue-collar white voters. Hispanic voters have been moving to the right a little bit there as well. Both of these groups together make up a larger share in the Las Vegas metro area than they do in a place like Phoenix or obviously like Atlanta in Georgia. And the rural areas just continue to move to the right significantly. There's not a lot of people that live there, but every single vote counts and adds up. And the Democrats have been taken over there by the crazy people of the Democratic Socialists of America and their candidates in the primaries last night that the state party supported more so than not, ended up getting embarrassed by the incumbent representatives. So that should tell you how incompetent the state party is there. And Catherine Cortez Masto is somebody who's extremely overrated. I think if you look at Nevada, you see Adam Laxalt, who is fairly solid on the issues, friend of Donald Trump, and Ron DeSantis, has been a Trump loyalist and is fairly solid on most policy. The fact that he is going to end up being the nominee, and he's also a solid candidate. He has independent support. Laxalt is a big political name in Nevada. He was a formerly statewide elected official, and he did better than the national environment by like 5 points in his governor's run back in 2018. Yeah, I think that we're back. I think that Laxalt is going to end up winning. Pretty much every single faction of the right tends to like Laxalt, which is a good thing. Party unity definitely helps, and he's expanding the coalition. It's going to be a red wave midterm year. And the polls so far have had Cortez Masto relatively underwater. There has been a poll out of University of Reno, but it had so many undecideds it was not a very good poll, and it was an adults poll. And even so, Masto is several points below 50. On aggregate, she's polling at around 43.4. Laxalt's at 39.1. The undecided voters, again, largely disapprove of Joe Biden. I think Laxalt could easily take this by like 5 or more. come election day. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But either way, I think that he's pretty much a shoo-in for the Senate at this point. But they got to finish. You can't be complacent. But as a result, the Republicans are favored for pretty much every election in the state of Nevada. So beyond that point, we have another state to talk about, the state of Arizona. And this is another state where the primary has not entirely been decided just yet. But at the same time, it's kind of apparent that we have a frontrunner in the nomination. Blake Masters was basically polling in third place. And everybody was saying, oh, he's an internet candidate. He can't win. He's a joke. He's too far right. He's a populist. They won't win in Arizona in the general. And then apparently started to rise up, and the race basically started to become a three-way tie between Jim Lamont, Blake Masters, and Mark Brnovich. And people still said Masters won't win. He won't even get Trump's endorsement. But then Trump endorsed J.D. Vance, and it was apparent that he would. And then he got Trump's endorsement. And the poll that has been taken since Trump's endorsement, Masters gained 10%. And he rose up into first place. There's less undecideds. He's getting the party behind him. He's a great candidate, great on all the issues. He's good on immigration. He's very good on crime. He's very good on trade, very good on the economic side of things. He is a populist. He is a nationalist through and through. And he's somebody who is unwavering in his convictions. And a lot of neocons really don't like that. And he's getting attacked by a lot of bad people because of it. But he's still gaining in the polls. He's still rising. He's going to win the general election, in my opinion. Mark Kelly is somebody who is overrated as an incumbent. He ran in 2020 as a moderate Democrat, and he has shown nothing but in regards to his voting record. He fell in line with Biden on literally everything. The notion that he's going to be able to run from his record and still win is lunacy at this point. And Masters is somebody that has good optics. He is a total Chad. I do believe he will do well in the suburbs. I think he will do better than Trump in places like Mesa and the east part of Maricopa County. He's also from Pima County, which means that I think that he could do better than Trump did in Tucson. I think he would get the Trump base out significantly in places like Prescott, in places like Mojave County, which is a surprisingly large county in terms of population. He'll also do well, in my opinion, in a place like Yuma, especially around the border. And I think that him and Kari Lake are going to end up carrying each other, no pun intended, to the finish line. Obviously, I think Lake is going to win by like 7. I think that Masters is going to end up winning by around 3. Both of them definitely have different strengths, but they're both fairly similar in terms of policy. So either way, I think Arizona is going to go red. I think you will see it flip as well. So Republicans are going to have 54 Senate seats. It's going to be epic, I'm telling you. And the senators are going to be better too. I mean, you look at these 5. I mean, you see maybe like Chuck Morse is somebody who is more of a run-of-the-mill GOP senator compared to these others. But you look at the fact that you have Laxalt in Nevada, probably better than any senator in the Senate. You have Masters in Arizona. You're going to get in some of these other states that we didn't cover, like Ohio. You're going to get J.D. Vance in North Carolina. You're going to get Ted Budd, etc. The list goes on. A lot of solid candidates that are rising up to power. You absolutely love to see it. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.